Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today I'm going to be going over your DCCs. It's going to be the second one, which is 8.2, page 340, number 1 and number 4A through F. On your answer key, the shading didn't come out because when I copied it, it was orange and it just didn't come out on the copier. So I figured this was a good opportunity to go over what the symbols mean and how we shade. So I will be doing these two examples. Hopefully it helps. Here we go. The first one says shade the region that represents. Now, I don't have anything down here. What I actually did is I cheated a little bit. I copied these from the answer key so that I didn't have to draw them. But before I go over what these all are going to represent, I want to go over the symbols. So this first symbol right here means and, which is both at the same time. It's basically where the circles, you're going to see the circles overlap. So it has to happen at the same time. This one means or, it's our inclusive, one or the other or both. And notice I made a little note down here. Both is going to be one and the other. So this really means one or the other or one and the other at the same time. So that note might help. And then we have the complement down here, which is a little apostrophe, and it means not. So with that, let's go and do our DCC. So number 1, what you're going to see for number 1 is they want you to shade the region where we have P or not Q. So what this really represents, and I wrote it down, is P or not Q or P and not Q. So when we do this, what we're going to really want to shade is definitely P. So here is P. And here is P inside here as well. So we can have P because that is an option. Even though this does go into this Q circle, and this is the Q circle, I'm not sure if you can see it, this is P and this is Q. Even though this does go in the Q circle, it's still just P, and we can have that. Or we can have not Q. So we can't shade in here because that's not, this is Q, so we can't shade. Or we can have P and not Q. Now I'm going to shade on the outside too because what's the outside? The outside is also not Q. So I have P and not Q or P and not Q. So that's how we shade that one. The second one is P and P and not Q. So this means really P and not Q. So we only shade just here. We just shade the P. We can't shade the overlap because this has to happen. Being P and being not Q at the same time have to happen. So that's it. So this one was an or, this one was an and. Let's go to C. We have not P or not Q. And we did this on the board. And so this is not both. It could be anything but both. So we can have the outside. We can have not P and not Q. We can have not Q and just P over here. And we can have Q and not P. That's fine. But we can't shade the middle because that's not both. Okay. Not P and not Q. So this is going to mean not P and not Q. This is an and. It has to happen at the same time. So not P and not Q at the same time is going to just be this outside here. E. P or Q, and then what we're doing is dropping parentheses around it, so we're negating P or Q. So what this really means is not P or Q or P and Q. So that's a tough one. So what we shaded for the P or Q, it can't be that. So it's not P or Q or P and Q. So what that's going to be is the outside. It can't be P, it can't be Q, it can't be both because we're throwing that not. So that's just the outside. So it's very similar to D. So we're getting two of the same shaded region, but we're doing it with different symbols. This one's going to be your and, no parentheses, negation for both. And this is going to be an or, parentheses, and negation on the whole thing. Let's see what D has. Oh, sorry, not D. Let's see what F has. We have parentheses, P or Q, and then we have the not. So this is going to be not P and Q. So again, not both. And so not both is going to be here. Not both, that's fine. Not both, that's fine. So it just can't be the middle, which is very similar like what we have up here. So we basically really did these for notes. You're using P's and Q's and not A's and B like we did for notes. So that's been number 1. Let's go to number 2. Sorry, number 4, which is our second example. Okay. Number 4 says this, the universal set is defined as the set of all integers. Consider the following sets. We have A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, B, X such that 0 is less than or equal to X, which is less than 5, and X is in all integers. And so when it looks like this, I love to actually write out my numbers. So this is just integers, meaning whole numbers and their opposites. So there's going to be no decimals or fractions. This little line underneath here means that it includes 0. So I'm actually going to write out the numbers that this pertains to. And the numbers that this pertains to is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't see it underlined here, so not 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I actually will look at this rather than what's in the parentheses. We have CP such that P is an even prime number. An even prime number. So remember, what a prime number is a number divisible by 1 in itself. So the only even prime number that I can think of is the number 2. So I'm just going to write that down. That's it. Every other number is divisible by 2. So D is 4, 5, 6, 7. That's pretty good. And E is X such that X is a square number less than 50. Now, what a square number is a number multiplied by itself. So let's do them out, because again, I want to see the numbers. So 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36, and 7 times 7 is 49. We can't go on because it says less than 50. So here are the numbers that I'm going to use for E. So it's really nice because now I can just look at these numbers and I don't have to worry about any of this notation. So let's see what they want us to do with all of these sets. So it says write down these sets. Okay, the first one is A and B. So remember, this is and, so this means both. So it has to be in both A and B. So let's see what we get. So I'm going to set up my equals with my parentheses. So A and B. So let's go back. Okay, so we're looking at A and B. So I'm looking at these two right here. Remember, we don't have to worry about this now that I laid them out. So A and B. So it has 1, 2, 3, and 4 in common. This one doesn't have a 5, and this one doesn't have a 0. So what I'm going to write down for A and B is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. For part B, it's B and E. So again, we're going to look at sets B and E. So let's go back. So we're looking at B and E, and it has to be both. So let's see what number they have in common. They have 1 in common, and they have a 4 in common. So that's what I'm going to write down. I'm going to write down 1 and 4, and that's it. Part C is C and D. So let's see what they have in common, because these are all ands. So I'm just kind of getting you ready for the and part. So C and D. All right, so C is just 2, and D is 4, 5, 6, and 7. So they don't have anything in common. Ooh, so we get to use our nice little empty set symbol because they don't have anything in common. Yay! All right, let's look at C and E. So remember, this is and. Okay, C and E. So we're looking at these two right here. C, the number 2, and E, oh, there is nothing in common. So again, this is going to be an empty set. Let's look at B and D. So let's go back up here, B and D. Here's B, remember, here's D, and I believe the only number they have in common is 4. And the last one is A or. So this is or. So this is A or B or A and B, because remember, it's or both. So, sorry, I wrote that down. So it's A or B or A and B because that means both. So let's look. So we got a lot of numbers probably, hopefully, to write down. Okay, so A or B. So here's A. It could be this one. Or it could be B, which is this one. Or it could be both. So let's write the numbers down. If they repeat, just write them down once. So I'm actually writing down numbers 0 through 5. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically, it's all of the numbers. So this has been your DCC, page 340, number 1 and number 4, A through F. Hopefully it helped. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.